Welcome back to another IELTS speaking lesson, and today we're going to be looking at something that a lot of students ask me about, and that is, especially for IELTS speaking, feeling nervous during the test. Now, this is definitely one of the most nerve-wracking parts of the test for many students. In fact, it's pretty much guaranteed that every student will feel nervous for this section. So we're going to talk about it in a little bit more detail, and I'll give you some tips to deal with the nerves and ways that you can practice in terms of the IELTS speaking test to improve your nerves, but also to relax a little bit better. So I'll take you through those tips, and of course, if you have any questions, please jump into the Q&A section. Okay, so up first, let's look at some general tips for nerves. As I've said, it's true that the IELTS is definitely a nerve-wracking test. There's a lot relying on the IELTS test in terms of the band scores that you get, whether that's migrating abroad, entrance into a foreign education institution such as a university, or even just for work purposes. Maybe it's a pay rise, a new position that you need to pass your IELTS for. So there's a lot riding on your IELTS test results, which naturally will make you quite nervous. But rest assured, all students are nervous, and there are some definite exercises we can do in order to relax more. Of course, if we're too nervous, we're going to freeze up. It's going to stop us focusing, and we're probably going to not do as well as we should. Okay, so here are a few general tips overall for the IELTS, which are always good to remember. They're useful for the IELTS speaking section, but also for the other sections of the IELTS test too. So we have the first thing, which is really important, and I'll talk about this again later on in the lesson, realistic expectations of the IELTS test. And I mean that in two ways. So first, expectations in terms of your band score. If you are putting a lot of pressure on yourself to get from, say you're a 6 now, to be an 8 in 2 months, that's not realistic. Most probably, it's going to be very difficult to achieve that grade with your current level of fluency. This is going to make you feel nervous. So it's good to have realistic expectations in terms of the band score that you can achieve. And of course, ask me, I'll be able to give you some feedback in terms of whereabouts you are in your overall fluency. The next realistic expectation would be in regards to studying time. So some students jump into this course, for example, with say 3 weeks of quite intensive studying. That works for some people, it doesn't work for others. It depends on your current level of fluency. It depends whether you've taken the test before. So try and think about how long you need to spend in terms of studying the IELTS to reach your required band score, so that you're not putting too much pressure on yourself. Also understand that many students have to spend up to a year, some even 2 years studying for the IELTS test in order to get that band score that you need. So that's going to definitely mean that you're more calm, that you have a better understanding of what realistically you can achieve and what to expect from the IELTS test. So think clearly about what band score you need and how you will get there, how long it's going to take you. Okay, the next thing is to prepare for all situations, important in the IELTS speaking test, but also in the other sections of the IELTS test too. And basically, preparing means to practice, to use as many resources as you can, to repeat lessons in this course, to ask me questions. That's what I'm here for as well. But also to try and look at other resources elsewhere. This course is a complete guide for IELTS, but that doesn't mean that you can't go onto YouTube, for example, and take a look at more modelled answers for, say, IELTS listening, or to look at some example tests for IELTS reading in other places. The more preparation you do, the less you'll be feeling nervous about surprising topics that you see. So preparation is definitely key to building confidence and lessening those nerves. Next up is to identify your strengths and weaknesses. Again, an overall IELTS tip, but where are you weakest? Is it your speaking skills? Do you need to practice more in your conversational fluency? That's where you need to sort of weigh up where to study the most in terms of the hours spent on those 4 sections: speaking, writing, listening, and reading. And if you do this, it will definitely help you in terms of making sure that all those levels of fluency are pretty equal. That's going to help you with your nerves. It's going to build confidence. Okay, so let's get more into the IELTS speaking tips. And the first one is preparation of common topics. So we just kind of spoke about this. You can't prepare for every single possible topic within IELTS speaking, but you can prepare for all the common ones pretty much. So there are different topics that come in and out of the IELTS speaking test year on year. And occasionally they have some slightly more left field or strange topics that they introduce and then bring away, pull out. But the common ones always stay the same. It's good, again, to use, of course, this course to look at all those different modelled answers and scripts that I give you, but also to try and look at different modelled answers elsewhere. Okay, so here are a few examples of common topics. It's not all of them, and I talk about this throughout the section, but we have things like family, education, hobbies. Definitely going to see one of those at some point in the IELTS speaking test. Art, sports and travel, probably more towards part 2 and part 3. And exercise, food and culture, again, probably more towards part 2 and part 3 of the IELTS speaking test. But these are just 9 quick examples of very common topics. So try and learn language around, learn vocabulary for these different topics. Take a look at the example model answers I give you within these topics and really focus on the language I'm using. Repeat the language that I'm showing you. Try and use the vocabulary I'm showing you too. Again, preparation will build confidence and make you feel less nervous. Okay, next we have rehearse modelled answers. Now, you'll often see that teachers say don't memorize answers on the day of your test. Now, I'm saying rehearse, not memorize. And I think a lot of teachers miss the point here. You shouldn't memorize answers, but in all honesty, fluency is something that is not natural. You have to build fluency. And a lot of the time, this is done through language rehearsal, which is repetition. You internalize language through repetition. That can be by reading different texts again and again and again until you can almost write or speak like that author. A good example, have you ever read a book and then you find yourself an hour later after finishing reading speaking in the style of the author? This is kind of an internalizing of the language, and you can do this with the modelled answers that I show you. I'm not telling you to memorize them, I'm telling you to act them out, to repeat them, to learn them. And of course, you might not get that topic, but there are some phrases, some language that I use that you can use in all topics, so rehearsing is definitely useful. For example, here, I'll not read this through to you, but this is just an example of a section of a modelled answer I give you. I think it's for part 2 of an IELTS speaking test. So what you could do here is maybe once a day, repeat and read this section 1, 2, 3 times. Once you've done that over 10 days, you'll have a lot more fluency in terms of using not just the vocabulary, but also the grammatical structures. And then you can start unpacking parts of the vocabulary and making it your own and changing the language. Don't memorize, rehearse. And I think I'm just repeating that there, saying many times over with expression and feeling. And really, it comes down to just practicing using this structured language, this modelled language here. It's really useful to do that. You should be doing that with all modelled answers. Repeat them, say them after me, and learn the language. Okay, next up, language partners. I talk about this all the time. Practice with native speakers if possible, or other English language learners. Practicing with native speakers or even a teacher is best, but if you can find other English language learners or other people studying for IELTS, that would be great. You might be nervous when you practice speaking with these people. That's really common, and it's definitely, students have said to me before, well, we're running out of things to say. And the best way really to get around that is to think about different topics you want to discuss. Now, you can bring IELTS speaking questions with you to these language exchanges, whether it's online or in person. And then you can discuss them. You could give each other a minute, 2 minutes to give an answer, give preparation time as well, and just give yourself feedback. So say what you liked about the language exchange partner's answers. So you're almost mentoring each other. If you come without any preparation or no ideas of what you want to discuss, you're going to run out of things to say. So preparation here again is key in terms of thinking about what you would like to discuss. Just quickly, you can use social media websites such as Facebook or possibly even Instagram. I'm sure there's many more WhatsApp groups to find English language partners. And if you search for that within Facebook, for example, English language partners, IELTS study partners, I'm sure you'll find plenty of groups there. Just quickly, a couple of ideas about a few questions you could bring. What is your favourite hobby? So maybe you could prepare together in these language groups and then give each other time to give an answer, almost like you would do in the IELTS speaking test. And here we've got a few other question types that are really common on IELTS speaking that you could bring with you too. Okay, so language exchange partners are really useful. You might be nervous, but I think practicing being uncomfortable is one of the best ways to overcome being nervous. Everyone was nervous to start with, and confidence is something that you build. Okay, and the last one, I've kind of already talked about this, but visualization and acting. So the IELTS speaking is almost public speaking, a test of public speaking, even though there's only an audience of one, the examiner. Now, public speaking takes practice. No one is naturally a great public speaker. Everyone has to start off from skill zero. So the best way to do this, and what a lot of people do, is to visualize the event, whether it's a speech or whatever is happening, training event, as I often do with teaching, and then to think about the things that you would say. In this example of the IELTS speaking test, that's to actually, in your head, or even better, out loud, maybe at home, so not everyone thinks you're crazy, is going over these answers. You can maybe write down 5 or 6 questions on a piece of paper. Read them to yourself, the questions, and then time yourself 1 minute, 2 minutes, and try and give an answer as you would do on the day of the test. And this is going to really help you to build confidence, because acting is definitely something that we can practice. We can pretend being confident, and you can do this with this preparation of pretending, really orally reciting your answers. And it's definitely a good idea to do this within a week of your test, every day, to be practicing speaking out loud. You can even practice doing a whole test if you can get questions written down. Okay, so just a little idea on visualization and acting, something that's really important for public speaking, but also just general speaking confidence. So acting and visualization. Okay, so just a quick run through of the different tips. So prepare for common topics for IELTS speaking. Rehearse my modelled answers that I give you, the different scripts and the different videos I show you. Pause, say it out loud, and do this daily to internalize that language. Find a language partner for practicing your conversation. That's very useful as well. And visualization and acting. And finally, just an extra tip, which is just set yourself realistic expectations in terms of the band score you want to achieve and how long that will take you, because that's going to make you feel less nervous as well. Okay, if you've got any questions about these tips or you'd like some more advice on this, jump into the Q&A section and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible.